All right, guys, so you are looking at, and this one's kind of special to me because it is a 2020 Ford F450 King Ranch in white platinum tri-coat. This is a beautiful truck. One thing I learned is that the grill on the dualies is different than the grill on the F250 350 single rear wheel truck. It's to allow more airflow to come in, and that is going to be the same with all of the dualies. So if you look at the dually truck here in front of us, the 350 to the left, and you pan over, you can see that they all have different grills. That's because, again, they wanted more airflow with the dualies. You can see this has the Fat Boy wide front end on it. Also has the same Continental Conti hybrid HD3 tires that I have on my truck and love. Coming back, 19.5 Alcoas, hooked up to this Big Tex 4XGN HD trailer. So this trailer is loaded up to a gross weight of 30,000 pounds. 30,000 pounds. This is one heavy trailer. So we are going to take this truck out with this load and see how it performs. I'm very interested in seeing how the engine brake performs hauling this load, specifically because they informed me that the engine brake in my 2017 is the same engine brake that's in this truck, except the difference being that this has a 10-speed automatic transmission, which complements the engine exhaust brake better, and it finds the right gear to best optimize braking when using the exhaust brake. Let's take a look in the back real quick. It is a massive setup. I love those chain rings. Those are really cool. I need to get a set of those. And I am guessing this is going to be on a 3-inch ball, but I'll find out. So this is running a 3-inch goose ball in the back versus the 2 5/16" ball that I usually use. And we got these two Kubota tractors on here. This is the U55-4, and then you have this Kubota, the R630. Combined with the weight of this trailer, 30,000 pounds gross vehicle weight. Anyways, let's hop in this 2020 F450 and take it on the road. Okay guys, so we are just taking off in the 450, hauling 30,000 pounds GVW and hitting the gas. Now this is definitely at that weight that you know you're hauling a trailer. You can definitely tell it is, I wouldn't say a struggle. It doesn't feel like the truck is struggling, but it does definitely feel as if the truck's working harder to move the weight, and that's just expected. Anytime you really break that 20,000 pound gross vehicle weight on your trailer, you're gonna feel it, and you'll feel it in a couple different areas. One of those that I'm gonna be interested in finding out is when you hit bumps, because the 450 pickup truck, unlike the chassis cab version of the 450, which is a class 4 vehicle versus this, which is a class 3 vehicle, it's going to have nine leaf springs compared to the 4 leaf springs that this has. So this is definitely going to be designed to be a more comfortable ride, especially if you're unhitched. If you're not towing and you're unladen, you're not going to notice a huge, I guess, a stiffness or firmness in the ride of this truck versus something you might experience in a chassis cab vehicle with a much firmer rear end. That being said, this truck really has no problem hauling that trailer, and it is a very comfortable feel. I am a big fan of gooseneck and fifth wheel connections because of where it moves that weight. You're talking about significantly higher pin weights because you place that weight directly above the axle, and you're usually talking anywhere between about 4,000 to 6,000 pounds worth of weight for a heavier trailer. Y'all know how much pin weight we got on here?
4,500 pounds.
Yeah. So the gross combined weight rating, the actual gross combined weight of the truck and trailer is about 3,800 pounds.
Anytime you pull something this heavy up at a continuous grade for more than a few miles, it'll come out.
Even though it's only 70 degrees out, the fan will come on because you're working at a lot higher power setting.
Definitely a smoother ride, and you can tell probably the difference even between this hauling this incredibly heavy load versus the 250 that we were in originally hauling the toy hauler. This feels more stable. And part of that stability comes with the wider rear end, extra tires on the ground, firmer suspension, commercial spec tires, as well as the weight being placed over the axle versus behind the truck. Now, a question for you is, with the 10-speed automatic, will this truck shift all the way up to 10th gear?
It will absolutely stay in 10th gear.
Really?
Yes,
okay.
Absolutely. This is all 10 gears. It has flat ground or slight grades. It has plenty of torque to run all the way to 10th. Yep.
Very good.
That's part of the 10
this is really where that 1,050 pound-feet of torque come into play whenever you're moving a trailer combination like this.
So this is actually a 5 to 6% grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Feels about the same as a dam.
Yeah, this is a
Relatively steep graded.
Yeah, it's definitely a good. It works this truck with this load.
I like this grade too because it makes you slow down a little bit and scoot back up.
Yeah, so this is the higher end 4x4, but like the blue regular cab that you possibly saw sitting outside the venue last night.
Mm-hmm.
That's our max store.
Package, yeah.
So that truck will pull up to 37,000.
Yeah, that thing's nuts.
And the reason why that is the weight of this extra crew cab here. That subtracts from the weight you can put over the top.
Mm-hmm.
But not many of our customers like to give that crew cab feature up, so we sell a lot more of these crews than the standards.
Well, what's interesting, and I make this point to a lot of folks, is that a lot of people think it's an unfair playing field for Ford to take their 450 and compare it against Ram's 3500 or the GM 3500 HD trucks. But then I tell them, you have to understand that the F450 is a different truck than the F350, even if you get it in crew cab configuration. The F450, in my opinion, is the tow master. The F350, in my opinion, is the payload master, because the F450 weighs roughly 1,000 pounds more from a curb weight perspective than the 350 does, and that actually deducts from its legal weight rating from a GVWR perspective, right? So the payload capacity on a 450 is generally in the 4,800, 5,200 range, whereas the payload capacity on a 350 is in the high 5,000, low 6,000 pound range.
Yes. Absolutely.
And it's interesting. I mean, they're all still Class 3 vehicles. At the end of the day, they're all 14,000 pound GVWR. You guys didn't take just a chassis cab truck and throw larger half shafts, larger brakes. You only beat me to it. You didn't make me remember. But what's funny, and this is
Suspension any different in the back?
That would be a Mr. Gable.
I looked it up on the fleet specs, and all the spring rates were identical.
Okay.
Everything was identical on the back.
Spring and shock package may be identical. I wouldn't be surprised because the weights aren't that different.
The frame section's a little bit different, I've noticed, up front. What else did I notice? And then I guess the half shafts being thicker, larger brakes, all that stuff just adds extra weight.
Yes. Yeah, no.
All right, guys, so we are going down a pretty steep grade here. What would you say that the grade here is?
6%.
6%? And
there's certain parts of this that it goes...
Seems steeper.
It gets steeper, it flattens out, it gets steeper. The uphill is a little bit more continuous, but there are parts going downhill that I see are probably approaching 8%.
Yeah, but I'll tell you that the exhaust brake has no problem holding it, and that is impressive. A lot of people want to know that. That's a huge issue for RVers that are looking to get in a different truck, and that might even be a reason why if somebody has, you know, a 2010 or a 2011 Super Duty or Ram and they're looking at brand new trucks, you know, hearing if one is going to be better in terms of braking whenever you're going downhill from an exhaust brake perspective is going to be important to them. And to me, this thing works as good as all of the good ones that I've already tested. That's probably the best way of saying it. I'm not going to say that it's better than the Cummins. I'm not going to say it's better than the Duramax, but I will say that it feels very similar to those, and those to me were also very impressive. So they're all on a very level playing field when it comes to the performance of the diesel exhaust brake, and that's kind of one of those areas that you can just check off whenever you're looking at all three trucks. In the case of the Super Duty, specifically the 450, this gives you something that no other manufacturer can give you in a Class 3 pickup truck format, and that is that wide track front axle. To have roughly a 45-degree steering angle on this thing is very, very useful if you're going to be backing in a trailer or maneuvering a trailer or trying to get your truck out of a tough spot. And it's, again, the reason I've told these gentlemen, it's the reason that I had my 2016 450 Platinum, moved to a 2017 King Ranch F350, and a month later moved to a 2017 F450 King Ranch. Once you go to this steering radius, it's hard to compare to anything else. All right, guys, so we are just getting back. We're finishing up this course. Again, F450, 30,000 pound gross trailer weight behind us. Combined about 38,000 pounds gross combined weight. Has no problem towing it. Again, this is totally different than towing a 15, 20, even 22,000 pound fifth wheel. When you add this extra weight, you are really pushing a truck. Even though this truck can tow more, you still need to understand what your limitations are, especially from a safety perspective. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. In the case of this truck, I don't feel as if the truck is struggling. I don't feel as if the truck is really working too hard, but it is definitely working, and it's definitely working harder than it would be working if I was hauling an 18 or 20,000 pound toy hauler. So just keep that in mind. When you're looking at getting a truck, you want to be in the safest position possible. Don't just go out and buy the biggest, largest, heaviest fifth wheel just because you believe that your truck can tow it safely all the time. You also want to take into account other factors that come into play, such as weather, road conditions, traffic, how densely populated an area that you're driving through is anytime you're looking at a trailer truck combination. Anyways, guys, I'm allowing this trailer brake to slow us down. We are returning back to HQ. We will wrap this one up. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, please take a moment, subscribe to my channel, give me a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you again very soon.